Well, so yes, the film festival.
Yeah, it started last night.
Yeah, our opening film was last night, and so moved over to the Fifth Avenue for a week and had our first matinee. Started an hour ago.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So far, so good, so great. Had a great opening night. Great film, great feedback, great party. Yeah, it's a really great start to the film festival.
Good to hear.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you like to talk about? Do you have questions? Or?
Well, it's about the film festival, but before we get started, I just wanted to touch base with you and see if you're okay with talking about Cineplex and the supposed acquisition, not acquisition, but this.
So they're being acquired, essentially. I mean,
Yeah, they have been acquired. I know that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've been acquired from a company in the UK. No, it was on speaking on the issue of the monopoly that they have with their films, but that may soon change. That may soon change.
Yeah, it's possible. It's an ever evolving landscape. Just
Yeah.
leave it at that. You know, I mean, the majors have always controlled the market in one way or another. For us, it's not really an issue. Most of what we show, they don't.
Yeah, I've been under the understanding that they don't tend, well, and I've noted that they don't tend to show a lot of foreign films to begin with anyway, so.
Well, no, I mean, that's not really true. They do. And they do have, locations that cater to different crowds and international
There is the,
village.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have the Vancouver International Film Festival there as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, yeah, and I've seen quite a few films there with the Vancouver International Film Festival. So I think I retract my statement. I was corrected. I stand corrected. No, it's just I have a friend. You probably know Corinne Lee with the Rio Theater. She's pretty passionate about getting that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there has been a long-standing geographical rule within booking, but that being said, I mean, I don't know what the exact range of the. I think it used to be 5 kilometers,
right?
And I'm pretty sure that the Rio isn't within 5 kilometers. Well, it's hard to say of the Scotiabank.
Yeah.
Or the park, or the Fifth Avenue, but somebody would have to actually do the drive to see how far it was.
Yeah.
But I don't, I'm not an expert on this. My tenure with Cineplex is over a decade.
Yeah.
Or 2.
Yeah.
2. Yeah. So even with the geographical rule, Cineplex could always throw their weight around and say, we're not going to play your product if you give it to an independent.
Yeah. And that's what I've been hearing through the.
Yeah, that's been the case with the international as well.
Oh, it has.
The Vancouver International Film Festival, and the Van City is in the same boat. They've been told repeatedly you can't play mainstream products
until we're finished with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think it's one and the same. I mean, when you run a repertory theater, that's kind of what you expect. Or a second.
I ran a 1,000-seat repertory house in Montreal decades ago.
Yeah.
And we put out a monthly program, and we tried to guess when the product was going to come off the first run screen, so that we could play something second run. And sometimes we missed.
Yeah.
But usually we didn't. So
Yeah.
Nowadays it's hard. I mean, some of the stuff plays for a week, and if they don't gross X number of dollars, it comes off. In situations like that, we get to have Fiddler, A Miracle of Miracles, because it did play Vancouver and Cineplex, but it lasted a week. And so by the time people knew it was playing, it was gone.
So you're able to pick up the possible interest on that.
Well, in my situation, we programmed so far in advance that, for instance, the Krasinski film and even Song of Names, which opened December 25th. Well, that's, I would have loved to play that film.
Yes.
But December 25, and we're up February 27th. You just never know. It could be popular, and then I won't have it. And it's one thing to program a repertory theater. It's a whole other thing to have a film festival. You have to have the product.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there for the artistic part. I always try and go after stuff that I know we are A, going to have great production values, B, the crowd will be really interested in, and most important of all, that it's actually available.
Yes. And speaking of which, you have 3 Oscar contenders that you happen to get into the festival. How did you make that happen? Is that, again, you just putting the hook out there early enough that you're able to acquire those films?
Yeah, exactly. Our opening film last night premiered in Germany for Christmas on December 25. It hasn't even landed in Canada yet. Some of the bigger U.S. film festivals did, like me, scour the world for new films, and so it played the big ones. It played Atlanta. It played San Francisco. But we had a great showing last night. Packed house. Wonderful film.
Nice.
Everybody looks to see it again, but you just have to wait till we're through this to think about that. As far as the Oscar contenders, we always keep an eye out to see what different countries are going to nominate. There's interesting stories about that because, Those Who Remain, which we're showing next Saturday, it's a fabulous film. Absolutely quiet, beautiful. The young woman who plays the main character is an amazing actress. And that's just, that's going to be a highlight next weekend. And obviously Hungary submitted it as their selection for the best foreign film, and it did make the short list. The other 2 films, interestingly, both have an Israeli component, and Incitement won the Ophir, which is Israel's Academy Award. So Incitement won the Ophir for Best Picture, and traditionally the film that wins the Ophir Prize becomes Israel's nominated film as submission to the Oscars. But Tel Aviv on Fire was also up for that award, but it won other prizes, but not the Best Picture. And because it was a co-production with Luxembourg, Luxembourg submitted it as their selection. So that's how we got to have Luxembourg, Israel's, and Hungary's submission to the Oscar for Best Foreign Film.
Wow.
Yeah, Tel Aviv on Fire is playing right now, a 1 o'clock matinee with almost 200 people, which is great to see.
Yeah, that's a pretty good strong turnout for
I think we probably have as many people in our one showing as not only all the screens here at the Fifth Avenue, but probably all the screens here and all the screens at Scotiabank downtown combined.
Wow.
Matinee, it's
a tricky one.
Yeah, exactly. Our matinees during a film festival are always very popular.
I've read that your film festival has been one of the top 10 Jewish festivals in the world. That's quite an achievement.
Yeah, I can't claim to have said that. It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
There are there. I mean, there are over 200 Jewish film festivals just in North America.
Right.
And I've been to several. I've been to and San Francisco is probably it vies for the largest Jewish film festival in North America with Atlanta of all places. So San Francisco and Atlanta are definitely the big boys when it comes to film festivals in North America.
Right.
Toronto is really big. In some of the larger cities have several. They have an Israeli film festival and they have a Jewish film festival. And even New York has an Israeli, has a Jewish, and has a other Israel film festival. Markets like that, with those kind of populations can support that. Vancouver's relatively small. We're fortunate to reach out, further into the community. So, our fare may be Jewish values and Jewish films, but our audience has quite a component of just community members that want to see good films.
Yeah, a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
In terms of your audience. And
yeah.
Just people that appreciate film, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, just in seeing the people that came in today for Tel Aviv on Fire, the audience wants to hear the stories of the other, and we like to bring diverse opinions and diverse stories.
Well, yeah, and I think you've captured that in a lot of what I've seen. Some of the showings, I've watched a lot of the trailers. There seems to be like a film, for example, like Crescendo, like just such a different aspect of a film where these two different social economic groups are coming together to make music.
Yeah.
Like, what a beautiful concept. Like,
yes.
Why can't we have more of that? Like there's such a great, strong culture there. And you'd mentioned Fiddler earlier on in our conversation that, it shows the diversity, even though it was essentially a whole Jewish thing with the Fiddler and the Roof, the Roof initially, it transpired into so much more than that. And it's become it's become an eye-opener for a lot of people, which is great. I look forward to seeing that myself. So.
Oh, it's fabulous. I mean, when I got the submission for the film, I went looking for it when I saw it, because I'm always curious about new stuff, and I was watching it expecting, okay, just here's another trope on Fiddler, but boy, did it ever surprise me. I thought right away, I knew I had to bring it to Vancouver. I was minorly concerned when I saw that it played at Cineplex, but when I saw that after 3 days it was going to end its run that week, I thought, okay, well, we'll play it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and I like the fact that they got Norman Jewison in there to speak about it a bit as well. That really shows that they've done their background and their research. And able to get him
very much a backgrounder on the whole Fiddler phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's not so much focused on just clips from the different versions, but they're interviewing a lot of the different actors over the years that have portrayed it, and the whole the outset of it, actually, how the whole production came to be, and how it was not going to be a hit or no good song, but oh my God, here we are so many years later, and at any given moment it's playing in the world,
right.
Whether it's Japan or Canada or the U.S. or Europe, somebody's putting on Fiddler. I know my own niece played Chaba in a community performance in Toronto a bunch of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's got a family connection for you as well.
It does have a family connection, yeah.
So getting back to briefly with Cineplex, you left there, and then did you acquire the position of executive director, or did you have to build your way up?
Oh,
the festival, or
no. When I left Cineplex, I was starting my own company. I'm a professional photographer.
Oh, okay.
So I had been in exhibition for a number of years, but I actually, my background, I did do, a creative arts degree, so I did film and photography, and in fact, my mentor in film, and I know you're in Victoria, but here in Vancouver, the Emily Carr University, Art and Design, the president and vice chancellor there, Ron Burnett, was my film mentor like decades ago at the college that I went to. He ran the cinema department.
Oh, okay.
And we maintained a friendship over the last 40 years practically. And so, interestingly enough, my family worked for Nikon, and so I ended up getting into photography and eventually taught photography at Vanier College and ran the darkroom there, and then ran a repertory theater. It was always visual arts. I worked at the CBC as a set photographer on their movie of the week. And when we moved out here to Vancouver, I had ran the Seville Theatre in Montreal for, a decade, and thought, okay, well, so I applied to Cineplex, and I applied to Famous Players, and, they both hired me, and I selected, well, at the time it was Canadian Odeon, and, had a career there and moved, kept, I guess, rising through the ranks, if you will. Met Garth Drabinsky when he took over that company, and we got along really well, and so he put me in one of his venues, and then I oversaw construction of their new builds here in Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
But meanwhile, I'm a photographer, and so it became a competing thing between, running these big multiplexes and doing what I love as well, and that's creatively taking photographs. So I left Cineplex, started Robert Albanese Photography, and just a couple of years after that, a mutual connection when they found out that the Vancouver International Film Festival was expanding from 2 venues to 10, and didn't really have the background in operating multiplexes, suggested that they contact me, and so I ended up working for the International Film Festival for a decade as their director of exhibitions.
Oh, wow.
And so I ran, I oversaw all of their venues and hired their managers and volunteers and ran the show there, and eventually got headhunted from there to take over the position of executive director of the Jewish Film Festival. And I agreed if I was going to also be the artistic director, because I wanted to have input into the selection of films, because that's really where it's at, and I had done that when I ran the repertory theater, and to a certain extent I did it at Cineplex as well. In the early years there was a lot of input that could come from the rank and file, at ground level.
Yeah.
So I won a number of national and North American awards for marketing, and did all kinds of stuff for kids, and I just like the business. I like working with people.
Well, and that's a big undertaking to take on, to something as big as the Vancouver International Film Festival.
Yeah.
To be, getting the films exhibited in certain places.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I missed was I ran the exhibition, but I really, I had no input creatively into the selection of films. They had that, and so I had enough to deal with, getting everything organized to get the people into their seats. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So I understand in addition to being the executive director of the Jewish Film Festival in Vancouver, you help in the selection process here in the one in Victoria as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's true. I curated for Victoria for the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because we were essentially at the same time. Actually, they didn't have a film at one point, I think they did, and they had the odd monthly screening. I think at UVic, someone sort of ran that.
Right.
And and they decided to do a film festival, and they contacted me, and I said I was happy to help and share resources. So I curate our festival and shared what I came across with them.
Right.
And that worked out for both of us. But then we had to vacate November, and we relocated in late February, early March. And they're happy to stay in November. That works for them because the Victoria International Film Festival comes around this time of year. So they will.
It was just this month, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to stay in November, and logistically, it doesn't really make sense for us to have the same relationship because they're in November and we're in February, March. So, I've taken them through their baby steps, and they're good to go now on their own.
So you're no longer affiliated with the Victoria one?
Well, I'll certainly, help them whenever they need help, but
right.
But I kind of have my hands full during my time of year, and so splitting myself into two to curate for them, in September, October, for them to find their films, and then do the same for me in a couple of months later. It makes more sense for them to take care of it on their own.
Yeah, you don't want to wear yourself thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. In all your years of being connected to film, what is the one experience you remember the most? Is there one that really stands out for you, or?
I don't think I could boil it down to one, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there's been so many interesting times. I guess it always kind of boils down to being the first people to see Star Wars before it was originally released.
Oh wow!
At the time, 20th Century Fox split their product between Odeon and Famous Players. So one film would go to Famous Players, one film would go to Odeon. And when Star Wars came along, the booking department was going to show, 20th Century Fox's booking department was going to show it to the bookers from both Odeon and to Famous Players, because for the first time in history at that point, 20th Century Fox was going to ask for a 90-10 split.
Wow.
At that point in time, that was unheard of, to ask the privilege of exhibiting it to only keep 10% of the proceeds. And so so 20th Century Fox happened to pick the Seville Theatre in Montreal to show this private screening to the booking people from both companies. Right. And that was the theater that I was associated with at that time as the managing director of. So we got to see it well before anybody else. So that was pretty much a highlight, because later on, when it became such a huge phenomenon, we had bragging rights that we saw.
Well, you still essentially do to this day.
That's true. Yeah.
But boy, what a margin cut! Yeah, you only got 10% of the.
Oh yeah.
That was your benefit of being able to show it.
Well, that's what the 20th Century Fox was asking of whoever was going to pick it. Obviously, our little repertory theater didn't get to show it to the public, but I believe, I think, I don't remember so long ago, I think Famous Players got the film.
Yeah.
But it went further than that, actually. Later on, when the big movie started coming out, they actually they put it out there. I don't think they ever actually succeeded, but they wanted a percentage of the concession gross as well. But I think that was pretty much beaten back down by the exhibition companies.
Wow, that's unreal. I didn't realize that their showing rates were so high.
Oh yeah, I mean they lower over time, but now it's quite common for it to be, you know, a 70-30 split, and then depending on the length of time that it's supposed to, it could, you know, go down to 60 and then 50. I think rarely does it go down below that. And I don't remember what the actually Fiddler or Miracle of Miracles. Usually we just have a flat fee to pay.
Right.
But sometimes we do get the request from the distributor to have a percentage. Fiddler is one of those.
Huh. And what's your thought on streaming services? Do you see an absolute? I mean, your 1 o'clock showing is doing quite well, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't see Tel Aviv on Fire on Netflix. You can't see it on Disney Plus. You know, there are no streaming services that really acquire to the independent film. I mean, when Netflix started,
Netflix does. I mean, if you look
to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, if you look to their, you know, their international selection, you know, if you dig down into that part of the menu, you'll probably find a couple dozen or more films that could fit our mold, and I often see a film that we've shown that's on there, and sometimes it's on there before I get it. So we kind of have to pay close attention to that because it does you know, dilute the field, so to speak, if it's already on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, my feeling is if you can put something up in scope, you know, in a movie theater with a great sound system, it's still going to blow out of the water your 55 or 60-inch screen.
Oh, for sure.
And, you know, you know, if it's a great film and it's on Netflix, I wouldn't be entirely averse to still showing it in the film festival. I'd probably have to think twice about it. But.
Yeah. Because, of course, you can't acquire what their numbers are because no way of knowing what Netflix's numbers are.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix knows that. Yeah. But, I mean, essentially, when they first came out, they were showing mostly just independent films.
Yeah.
You know, like John Cassavetes, John Sayles, a lot of those guys were coming up, like, almost daily. And now it's just, I realize they're trying to appeal to the masses and, you know. But.
Well, you know, my kids, they don't go to the movies. You know, they stream. They watch whatever they want when they want. So planning is not, unless it's a big tentpole film that they're already invested in the series. That's you know, a brand that's been made. You know, the Harry Potters, the Star Wars. Those,
Star Wars,
you know, yeah.
Because that's the interesting thing about this acquisition of Cineplex is. Getting back, sorry to go back to this, but this group over in Europe, they're predominantly known for having a buy a yearly pass, and you can go see as many movies as you want within that year. Yeah. Because they're trying to, because I had read what the CEO had said, is they're trying to compete with streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon. Yeah. And that's, you know, I hope it works for them because that's a good way to get people out of the house and back to seeing movies in the theater. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it would work. Depends on the price point, obviously.
Exactly. That's where it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's something they have to figure out. Not us.
Yeah. I kind of have to go.
Yeah, I know. It's half an hour. Yeah, that's what Danielle had mentioned. She sent a couple films my way, so I'm gonna get those. I'm gonna get watching those and get reviews up for you folks. And I appreciate your time and your trust in me to watch these films.
My pleasure.
And I thank you for your time today with the interview.
You're very welcome, Anthony.
It was nice talking to you.
Same here. Take care.
You too.
Oh, I wanted to ask all along. Nadeau. It's a French name.
It is. On my mother's side, her great-grandfather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was curious. I'm an ex-Montrealer, so
Oh, okay.
Notice those names.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great weekend.
You as well, and thanks again for your time.
Right. Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.